Hello. All right, I figured this would happen. Enjoy the music while I get the camera working. Not that one. Oh, it's not plugged in. That's what it is. Oh, mom was putting time out for skipping class, yes. All right, I think I have... It's going to be lower resolution than normal, but it's a camera. I don't know what changes every time I plug this thing in. Oh no, it's giving away my messiness on the side there. Can y'all hear me? Someone say something in the chat if y'all can hear me. That's my last check. I will eventually get it to where I don't have y'all checking. Oh, okay, good. Good, I just have to make fun of my mom and then put her in detention and then y'all will check my audio for me. Confirm or deny. Hi Mary, how are you? I don't know why higher resolution's not working. We'll go with this. Okay. How is everybody today? Turn the music down. All right. How are y'all? Doing well? Good. Good to hear. So we are doing a part 2. I decided earlier today. Today's topic is going to be a part 2 of the basin overview because we have a fun little sneak peek of a feature that we want to show off, and it helps explain a lot of this stuff and why the basins matter and how to use it. The other thing is we will obviously be taking Q&A from the audience, y'all. And let's see, if you are watching this on the replay, go ahead and put the any questions you might have in our comments. I will also head over to our comments from last week to make sure I got all of them from last week. And we do this every week at Tuesday, or on Tuesday at noon Central Time. My name is Tracy Lenz. Hi, I'm a petroleum engineer. I am, Mary says, yay, basins. Okay, good. This is working too. Yay, basins. Hi, my name is Tracy Lenz. I'm a petroleum engineer. I'm the owner of Pecan Tree Inc. We are a engineering oil and gas appraisal firm who we've developed our own index. And benchmark for oil and gas pricing. So we both use that for our in-house appraisals and for our on-site app. So you can go to pecanestimate.com or pecantreeog.com. That is our main marketing site. You can get all the info about us or check us out. Everything we're going to be looking at today, okay, maybe not everything because we're doing the sneak peek, but we are a open to the public company where you can go and check us out, subscribe, get everything DIY as much as you want to, as much as you're able to, and then we're always here to help if you need it. So that is my spiel. I got that out of the way. Thank you guys hi Martha. Thank you guys for joining us today. We have our crew, our classes in session. So Martha, I don't know if you were here, we're doing basins part 2 for our topic today. And I'll be looking to see if we had any other questions that came through. I did have a couple to check if we hit them one off during the week or if they're ones we want to hit here today. Okay. Martha, you're out to lunch with your my sister and her granddaughter. Got it. Well, we don't want to keep you from lunch. So that's very important things there. So thank you for joining us though still. Okay. We will head right into it. So I am getting my map ready. And in the meantime, how was everyone's weekend? I feel like I need to, first of all, this is too far over that way. That's better. So I am a Texas fan. So I had a good weekend. Condolences to anyone up north in Oklahoma. All those Yankees up there. I mean, not really condolences, right? Because why am I wearing a red shirt? I shouldn't be wearing a red shirt. Maybe that's my that is my condolences. I'll wear something close to crimson, but not. Okay. I am sure if my husband's watching it, he's going, no, screw them. We won. Ah. That's very much more his attitude than mine. Okay, let's see. What am I doing? I'm getting the basins up and going. Okay. So last week we did an overview of the major basins and the ones that have the most activity. And I thought we would just kind of expand upon that. There's so many more things. We didn't hit. We hit maybe half of them. There's a lot of things that aren't terribly active right now, but we can always talk through them and why certain things are interesting and important, and just see what things come up. Okay, so if I do this, we'll do, move this over here, desktop. Okay. There we go. So this is my QGIS project. So that is our behind the scenes mapping that we use. And then all of this is on a database that is somewhat available online also through our Pecan website. So let's see if I... That's a sneak peek. Let me go to... So again, we have our Pecan Tree OG site here, which has all of our products, pricing, company, model, education. Side note for anyone on here, under education, blog is the main one there, and we are putting a recap of the office hours. I'll make this a little more, as I go, I'm a little more dynamic, but For example, we have, you can watch the replay of last week's. You can see our major topics and timestamps. Okay, I have this too big for y'all to see all of it. There we go. I'm also including any links to sites that might be useful for if you're wanting to learn more about it. I'm a little, you can't see me. Fix that. Do I need like an expert streaming person to come and like fix all this for me? Is that what I need? No. Maybe we'll just have to do this. Okay, we're gonna do this. Oh, jeez. Enjoy the music while I figure this out. So I'm trying to get my little camera in the bottom right, bottom left, bottom left. Works. Okay. I just have to have the mouse elsewhere. Move this over here like this. Okay. So, yeah. So we have our, what basins we talked about last week. What timestamps. Okay, I had AI help me with this. That doesn't seem right. But maybe this particular, sorry, it was just this particular question. Most of the Q&A last time was talking about these basins. So these are kind of the key takeaways and some links to some other, like EIA has their basin map. That was the genesis of a lot of what we were doing. Was starting with the EIA's definition of where all the different basins were across the U.S. EIA is Energy Intelligence Agency. It's a U.S. federal agency, and it's made to make sure that we know, like internally, how much energy we have as a country and how it's how things are moving. The USGS also has a lot of research available online that we're utilizing to help define where the basin edges are and which basins are where. There's more even than what we have shown. These are just the major ones that we're covering. So if I go back to, so my monitor is actually over here that I'm clicking on, and I'm actually looking at my display. So, or the thing that's like pulling all the YouTube stuff together over here. So that's why I'm like clicking back and forth. Okay. So we have this, let's see. So last time we talked about the major ones, and as a recap, the yellow is the sedimentary basin. So that is where everything over time, sediment deposited whenever there was water over these areas. So there was different sea levels in the history of Earth, and at different times there was different amounts of water over these areas of the country. And when there's water, whether it's a river or a nice, beautiful, lush coral reef or an ocean or whatever it is, water provides a really, really great place for sediment to, make its way into a basin shaped thing and then settle to the bottom. So then you get these sedimentary basins. That's what we're looking at here is these sedimentary basins are the places that oil and gas are most likely to be found. And that's these yellow outlines. And some basins have several different names depending on how you're looking at it. If you're looking at it from like a geologic perspective or from a production standpoint or from a political standpoint, like they might be called different things, but I kind of have the ones that we call them are displayed in kind of this brown text over top. So let's see. Last time we really hit on the Eagleford. We have the Permian Basin over here, so that's all this stuff here. We have more, there's more character on our map in the Permian, but this is just a very basic amount of detail. That is, if you imagine this times 100 in all the basins, it's very complex. Like there aren't many basins that you can say, oh yeah, that one's a real simple one. It's just a simple basin. There's nothing going on except for you could draw a circle around the activity and that's all there is. Most of the time there's complexity and because you're having to trap the oil and gas underground somehow. And if you have something really simple, like just a bowl of sand isn't going to trap oil and gas because oil and gas evaporates, it rises, it gets displaced by water. So if you were to fill that bowl with water, all the oil would leave the bowl because it would float to the top and spill over somewhere else. So almost everywhere there's complexity going on. And so this is trying to simplify it to a usable format. So then within here, we have these kind of brownish dark colors. That is indicating a tight play. So a tight play is when there's reservoir there that's holding oil and gas in some capacity, but it needs newer technology than what's been used historically in order to get it out of the ground. So historically, you think of Beverly Hillbillies, right? Like the guy shoots the gun and hits the ground and like oil shoots up from the ground because it's so easy. It's so close to the surface. It's so easy to get. It's so high pressured. It's flowing. Like it's more just a matter of finding that pocket of oil and popping a straw into it, and that straw being a well. That is what we call conventional oil and gas. And the hardest part of that is finding it because it really is more like pockets. You have pockets of very high quality stuff that's scattered around. And so if I turn on, I'm going to turn on our value layer because the value layer helps show where those pockets of production are. Actually, I'll turn on this one. So I have all of the colors. I'm just going to only turn on the high and very high so that we don't have all the greens and everything in there. There are some areas of the country that have a lot of scattered oil and gas pockets. And so one of those is the Gulf Coast. You have, let me turn off the units. So those blue outlines are the production units. And they kind of get in the way. All right. So these little pockets of kind of like pink and red, those are high value fields that are just scattered in there. And a lot of, we even covered this, I think last week, where the Gulf Coast, there was a lot of salt and there's salt domes that are produced because salt acts like toothpaste when you put it under a whole bunch of rock, and then it forms these like, it pushes the rock into a way that makes nice little pockets of oil. So scattered around southern Louisiana, scattered around the Gulf Coast, you have a lot of these pockets of value, and that's all tied to producing wells. If I were to turn on the wells, I'm not going to turn on the wells because it would just take a while to load since I'm moving the map around quite a bit, and there's thousands and thousands of wells in this area. If you imagine each one of these little like pimple looking things, um, there's probably 100 wells, if not more. And each little circle, if I zoom in on just one of these, is actually a hexagon. This is about a mile by a mile because this is the land grid here. So we have a mile by 1 mile land grid, and so our hexagons are roughly about a mile by a mile sized. And so you just have these little pockets of production that are scattered around. So Gulf Coast is one of those where you have a lot of little scattered production. Let's see, Kansas, there's a lot of random scatterings of production as you go up into Kansas. Let's see, we have the Wyoming and into Powder River Basin up here. If you look, there's some greater trends, but there's also a lot of random little pockets. A lot of these basins, let's see, probably the most prevalent one would be the Central Basin Platform here. We did cover that last week, but if I turn off the plays and fairways here, this Central Basin Platform is where historically a lot of oil and gas has produced. But if you look now, there's these big blankets of value in these basins on left and right of it. That's where we have our unconventional shale plays and tight oil and gas. So the difference between tight oil and gas versus shale is just the size of the little like spaces in the rock, but they're essentially very similar. So it's all the things that if you stick a straw in it, nothing would happen because it all just flows so slowly because you have these things that are as tight as it'd be like trying to get a stain out of a countertop is always my favorite analogy. The same way that if you were to drill a hole and put a straw into your countertop, if you were to spill red wine on the counter and it like soaked in, you wouldn't do that ever, but first it would damage your countertop. But also, if you were to drill a hole around where that stain is, the stain wouldn't like seep into the hole. It's just, there's a reason it's soaked into the countertop, and that's because there's that capillary pressure of, it's things that even if you don't know what capillary pressure means, when it's such a small little hole in the fabric or in the rock, it just like grabs that particle, that molecule of oil or water or whatever is staining it. And essentially the oil and gas is stained into the rock in these really tight areas. Like it's just, the rock is holding onto it so tight that even if you were to like take a piece of it and like shake it, it wouldn't drip out. So in those areas, we have to just basically crush the rock through this fracturing process. And the nice thing is that it makes for these really big, like, fairways and plays that are widespread. Like each one of these is a county, right? So this is across multiple counties that the Delaware Basin spreads, and there's value across the whole thing. And everywhere that technology has opened production, like if we're able to put a well, that's like drill it horizontally, and then along that well just crush the rock and access as much of that as possible, eventually we get enough little drips out of that little bit of rock. And this is simplifying it greatly, but you get enough drips over a long enough area that you get production, and you get enough pressure. Like these are pressurized reservoirs, so it's not necessarily like breaking your countertop that has a stain in it. It's like breaking a very high pressured countertop that has a stain in it. It wants to push that out, and it wants to when you break it, you cause a pressure difference between one side of the rock and the other. So it wants to like flow like a hose, but we have to do that first. So that's what the fracking is doing. And then once that happens, it unlocks the production for these large spans of sediment that was just deposited over time. And so, you know, we have our Eagleford trend, we have our Haynesville and Bossier shales over here. This is mostly the Wolfcamp and Sprayberry. This is mostly the Wolfcamp and Bone Spring. Talking about the individual formations now that are producing. Anywhere you see like these high value areas, which is so red is indicating a high value area, that's where modern technology is really being used to extract the most oil and gas out of it. So we have Anadarko Basin. This is mostly the Woodford and Merrimack or Mississippian. Sometimes it's called, what's the other one is called? Not Merrimack. I'll think of it later. It transitions from one name over to another name as you go across the basin. But it's the same relative formation, same age formation. You have your Denver-Julesburg right across. This is Denver right here. So actually this southern end is Denver. And this is the Niobrara and Codell reservoirs that are produced, that are the big blanket reservoirs here. You have the Green River and Wasatch in Uinta Piceance. I can't think offhand the Powder River. I haven't specifically looked at that one lately. I can't remember that one's reservoir name, but up into Williston Basin, that's where you have your Bakken and Three Forks being laid as a blanket across the basin that's being produced. Anywhere where you see a big basin and no big like splotch of value, that means that it just hasn't been exploited in a highly commercial way quite yet. It doesn't mean that there's not production there, and it doesn't mean that people aren't making money. It just means that the industry isn't like running 10 rigs and drilling, 10 well pads of horizontal wells in that area quite yet. Or it's so isolated that it's not really impacting value. But usually if you have horizontal drilling, will usually cause things to highlight on this map. This is mostly the, I want to say Uinta, that's Utica, there we go. Mostly the Utica. You have the oil window of the Utica over here, west of Pennsylvania and into Ohio and northern West Virginia. And then this play up here is the Marcellus, like where the Marcellus is really hot. It stretches across this entire thing, but there's different phase windows that you'll last week we talked about how the deeper something is, the more it cooks, which is like having the pot roast in the oven for a really long time. You eventually run out of liquid and you only have pot roast smelling gas in the oven. And so if pot roast is oil and gas, then the more it cooks, you have the Marcellus, which is mostly gas. It's just been cooked deeper and hotter than, like deeper, hotter, longer, one of those combinations, than the areas that are oilier. And so the areas that are oilier tend to be more shallow. They tend to be up structure from the gas. They tend to be along a line, so it won't be just random little splotches, because things tend to be buried at the same depths together, and it's more following what was happening with the rocks. If you've been out to Pennsylvania and kind of driven from Pittsburgh over to the East Coast, like there's some really interesting geology along that drive that you can see how these rocks, just as they got squished and torn and pulled and pushed, it just mashed them into this crazy mess of ups and downs, and you just see the rocks just diving as they got pushed and turned. And that's what we're targeting now, is these rocks that have been pushed and turned and buried, and there was stuff in those rocks when they were buried. And So when I was when I was working at Chevron, we took a trip up to Pennsylvania, and we made the drive from, was it? I think it was from Pittsburgh to Bedford. Um, I have a an eyewitness on the chat today who can confirm or deny the exact trip we made. But so we made a drive from around here, this direction, we'll just say. And the geologist that was on our team at the time was a very geologist. Like, he was very quintessential geologist. And he got super excited. He's like, "Oh my gosh, that's the best drive to go on. I'm gonna make you a map of all the cross sections that you're going to encounter and where on that highway you're going to encounter them, and you're going to love it. It's going to be amazing." And it actually was pretty neat. I will admit, at the time I was kind of rolling my eyes at him, but it was pretty neat. And yeah, highly recommend if you're into geology. That's a neat little drive. It's whatever. Yeah, so it was to Bedford. Sure, someone in here. It was along one of the major highways here. Okay, that's probably too much into that. But the major formations do kind of change quite a bit going from northwest down to the southeast. Like, that's where you're going to get the biggest change as you drive this direction here. And if you follow the southwest to the northeast, you're going to be a long trend. So you're going to have the most similar types of rocks going this direction. That's highly simplifying it, but if you have acreage, then to make this, extend a little further, let's say you have acreage right here. I would generally expect the wells from a southwest to northeast trend to be more similar than the wells on a northwest to southeast trend. So wells going this way, they're gonna change quickly as you go from up here. Like, even just pad by pad, we see the gas oil ratio change, which is how much gas versus oil it's producing. So especially in this area, the oil is very valuable. So as you, like, each section of wells, each unit, you're going to get less and less and less oil. For the most part, there's different benches, different operators, different vintages. There's things that affect it for the most part. Here's Pittsburgh. So Allegheny County does not like the oil industry. So this is kind of funny coming from the Kimberly Ayers, who is in Pennsylvania. So she says that she's in Pittsburgh, but really she's actually in Canonsburg, which is right outside of Allegheny County to the south, somewhere in here. I actually have, let me see. There we go. Road map. Makes it harder to see the red bit. So most of the oil companies are actually here, and here's Pittsburgh itself. Okay, so let me know if you want me to keep the roadmap on or if that is distracting. Do we have any? Does the roadmap help or make it hard to tell what's going on? First person to answer in the chat wins. While I have my coffee. All right, I get to decide. Okay, so I'll keep it on for, no, I'm going to turn it off. It's a lot. Okay. And then that is most of the exciting areas. So hopefully I got everyone caught up. And so now I'm going to hop over to, Mary says, either way, maps or no maps. All right, that's kind of how I am. Okay, Now I'm going to hop over to this. And so our Pecan Insider that we haven't officially rolled it out yet. Let me actually do something real quick. We haven't officially rolled it out yet. It is a brand new thing that we're working on, and we have the early phases where we can give you access to it if you would like. But right now we're just kind of playing around with how we want to have it viewed and what's the most useful. And so if I go here, here's what we got. So since we have the value all across the country, we're coming out with a basin index, and this display might change, but the general idea is there. So every basin that I just showed on our map, we have the average acreage value within that basin. And this is something that if we look at Delaware, for example, this is the Texas half of the Delaware Basin. This is the change month over month of how that basin has trended, both from a production, valuation, like commodity prices, all in. Like includes every bit of everything that goes into our model, including the differentials, including latest drilling, latest rigs, everything. And so you can kind of see the general trend of if commodity prices have, or did commodity prices swing enough to overcome production decline? Was there enough drilling to overcome production decline? Or, if everything was the same month to month, we would expect this to go down every month because it is a depleting asset. So there are wells that are actively producing and depleting unless you were to find more oil and gas, or if you were to make that oil and gas worth more through some other, change in the market, whether it's like each barrel's worth more, or they're able to get more barrels out. If that's not happening, you expect this to go down. So if it is happening, if there are things that are interesting that are developing, you see an uptick. And most of the time, I will say most of the time, the wiggles are due to commodity prices. Everything else is secondary to commodity price in terms of how it can affect basin-wide changes. But if you have if you're not seeing it trend with commodity prices, that's when it's like, what's going on? And much like any other index, this dollar per acre that we have dollar per net royalty acre that we're displaying here is not what you would want to transact at. This is just a baseline. And then we also have some more stats that we're pulling out of it. We'll continue to add to this, and we also have some premium features that we're going to be extracting and making available. How much of that basin is producing versus something that is ready to be developed or could be developed. And then also a map of, okay, what are we defining as Delaware Basin? So this the Texas part of the Delaware Basin. Again, we're going to keep adding more to that. We have a little more detail on what we're planning on putting in Pecan Insider. Let's see. What basin? So Mary and Martha, y'all would be the Marcellus. So we also have what commodity forecast is going into the current analysis. So Appalachian, here's what we're seeing for the Appalachian Basin. It is very large right now in terms of what's included in the basin. So the big drivers, we're debating how much we want to break this up for this purpose. So if anyone has any feedback on how much they'd like to see this broken up, we're taking everything into consideration. But the basin as a whole, see, there's quite a bit of upside right now. The future development, there's this change over time. We generally saw a slight increase in gas prices, so that made anything that was tied to gas slightly increase going into August. There's a slight decrease going into September, and then October is rolling out today, actually. So this will actually update with October's later today. Wasn't able to get it in before today's live stream. But yeah, so this is our sneak peek at the basins that were, or this insider thing that we're going to be rolling out. I think I want to check if there were questions that were left on last week's live stream. So I'm going to pop back to here. And I moved this camera, didn't I? Okay. We're okay. All right. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll look at... Y'all can tell I'm doing, I think my stuff comes through. All right, so we got we have one advertisement that was posted on the last one. Did anyone celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving yesterday? I know we had one team member celebrate it. I'm curious if we had any other Canadians or dehomed Canadians that are outside the what's that, outside of Canada? That would have been a faux pas. Yeah, I had to ask Whitney. I was like, is it the same as like regular Thanksgiving where you have like, or is that just the Americanized version of it that, you know, I'm imagining? She's like, oh no, it's pretty similar. The things I'm learning about Canada. Okay, studio. Sorry, I know I have like a really easy way to get to the questions that we've had. Okay. So in order to show these, I'm just gonna let y'all see behind the scenes. So Mary, you're curious to learn more about lithium. Leaseholders in West Virginia was not familiar with lithium extraction. Yeah, and I think I remember that y'all, were y'all able to find the lease for that the leaseholder is operating under? And does that lease include oil and gas only or all minerals? That's what I would be curious on. If it includes all minerals, then that lease owner might not be the most familiar with it because they don't have to be. They've already leased it and they can just watch, like the oil and gas is already holding it for them. If it's not, then they should probably get familiar with it because it's coming. But yeah, I can't remember if y'all can find your lease or not. I know that you got to meet the lease owner over the last couple weeks, or got to at least talk to them right around. So that's great. But if you have that contract, that would put more information on the lease owner side, like what's happening on that side. So we're doing a little behind the scenes here. Okay. So I have a company trying to force us to sell ours or pay for any repairs for damage created while drilling. I don't know which direction to take from here. Any assistance is greatly needed. Sell ours or pay for any repairs. So it sounds like surface is what they're talking about. So the surface, because they use the word damage created while drilling, yeah, I'm guessing they're talking about the surface. Now, this is on our 5 things mineral owners shouldn't do video. And so I'll go through and put this comment in there. But generally, if they're talking about surface, there's not much you can really do. I mean, you can always negotiate, but your leverage just isn't as strong. The surface rights, they have to get to the surface in order to drill the well and get to the minerals. But if there's damages that happens, like they don't even really have to pay you for the damages if you're just a surface owner. It's just traditional to pay for those damages in order to keep relations good. But technically, whoever owns the minerals has rights to access those minerals, regardless of what's going on the surface. Now they have rules they have to follow. Like they have to choose the least damaging, the least can't think of the word way in order to access that. They can't. If there's a way to get to it without disturbing what's currently happening there, they have to do that. But if there is not a way, then you have to let them. Do you need a paid subscription to use this tool? That was on the walkthrough of a real listing. So that we use the Pecan estimate tool, and that was that's this tool here where you can select your state, create a tract. I'm currently in our portfolio. So to save your properties and to get the more detailed value of what's going on and specifically which wells we think you have interest in, that is a paid subscription. But in order to just, like, I could be logged out on here. If I were to log out, I am now able to create a tract and I can poke around. I can see all the stuff on the map for free. I'm not even logged in. So this is all stuff that you can do without even getting a login or account. As soon as you want to save a property, you have to create an account. And if you want to know more details about what is the value there, if you want to see our Pecan scope and Pecan estimate on which is our like high level and then our more detailed valuation, if you want to see which wells we think you have interest in and how much each well is worth and how much value you have in each well, that is the paid subscription. But just seeing it, creating an account, saving tracks, that stuff's all free. Yeah, hopefully that helps there. And I'll post this in that chat, that question they had. Okay. Oh, thank you to Eric Schumann. Refreshing not to hear the same tune. So I can heart that. Thank you. Oh, Fred, hope to see you again in 2 weeks from what your online schedule shows. Have a good one. Thanks. So that was 3 weeks ago when we took that 2-week break due to traveling and just, I think there was a school holiday one of those days. So yeah, thank you. We miss you, Fred. Hope to see you again soon. I know that you're a busy person also, but yeah, same time, same place is where we are. If you want to join again, let's see. Uh, how long after the rig is gone? Devin drilled 2 wells. The rig been gone about a month. We all got that letter last year from the lawyer about drilling 2 wells in Section 30. These 2 Christmas trees Devin put there. How long before we get paid? I think they got the pipeline in, and then the person says where they are in Blaine County, Oklahoma. So this is on our We Know Oil and Gas video, and hopefully it's not too small for y'all to read. I probably can make it bigger. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so how long until from when the rig is gone until the mineral owner gets paid? Now that's something that y'all can probably see, especially if you're living near the minerals and you see a rig get there and it's nice and tall and you can see, oh, it's there, and then 2 weeks later it's not there. You probably start watching the mail for a check or something. I would expect at a minimum from that rig leaving to your first check in the mail, 3 months, I would say at a minimum, because it's going to take probably about a month from that rig leaving to them getting all the equipment in the hole to control the production, whether they need to do something to help it lift, or if they need to get any remaining pipeline stuff in place, if they need to clean up the well, if they, best case scenario, that's all in place and they just, drill the well, frack it, and then put it online. But even then, you're probably looking at a couple weeks. And then once the well is online, which means producing, then there's all the title work that goes into figuring out who exactly needs to get paid. And a lot of times that can't be finalized until I know exactly where the well ended up being drilled and completed. Now, there's a lot of times, especially for allocated wells or wells that have any complexity regarding ownership, that depends on how much is producing from each like neighborhood or unit or group or pooled unit, whatever you want to call it. If there's any complexity there, they have to wait until all that data is in so they know what's producing where and how to allocate the production. Now, sometimes that's set ahead of time, saying that we're going to drill this well, we're going to allocate it this way. But most of the time that I see, it's based on producing lateral. And so that means which part of the well is in which section. And you don't know that until everything's drilled and completed, because plans change. They might encounter an issue. They might have some reason that they aren't able to complete a certain section, or maybe they have to stop, or maybe they get stuck, or maybe they go out of zone and they decide not to complete the second half of the lateral. Like there's things that can cause plans to change. And so a lot of times they'll have the plan and they'll have everything in place for knowing who's going to be paid. And then once all that final data is in, they'll put those final numbers in, follow up on any title disputes, things that they need to get cleared up on, and then they'll send out the division orders. Then they'll start paying whoever should be getting paid. So that's usually, I've noticed, maybe a month at the minimum. And then there's like a 2-month delay usually between first production and sales, because it has to produce from the well, go to the plant then pays the person operating the well, and then that operator then pays you. So there's at least 2 cycles of billing. Of, do you think of like a monthly accounting process? There's the monthly accounting process for the person buying the oil and gas, and then there's the monthly accounting process of the person distributing the funds. So at a minimum, you usually at least have a 2-month delay between it leaving the wellhead and you getting a check. And in practice, I would probably expect 3 months, if not more, just because sometimes there's one extra step in there. Sometimes they have an efficiency that makes it cheaper overall, but it makes it take a little longer. Or maybe it's just not even producing enough that it pays you monthly, because a lot of times you need to have $100 of royalties built up before they'll send you a check. And if you have a very small interest in a well, that might not be right away. Usually, if it's brand new well, even the smallest interest owners will get that accrued early on, but yeah, sometimes not. Let's see. A Christmas tree, by the way, is the pipe that's coming out of the ground that is right where the well's drilled. So right where the well's drilled, you'll see a whole bunch of pipe coming out, and this is for flowing wells, specifically, like ones that don't need like the rocking horse looking thing, the pumping unit. If it doesn't need a pumping unit, if it doesn't need gas lift or something else, you'll see this Christmas tree of valves and pipes and usually it's like the biggest ones at the bottom, and then it gets smaller as you go up. So, appropriately, they call it a Christmas tree. That's what that is. So happy to answer more questions on that, but I will answer that right after I get off this talk also. Let's see, this is about a month ago. This is very interesting information. Thank you for sharing. I'm in New Jersey and would like to know if you can indicate if there's any reliable list of publicly traded companies that own the leases that you can buy shares in. I'm just starting to educate myself on royalties and want to get involved, but start very small until I really understand it. Thank you in advance, and I am behind on answering this one. But this is on our Oil and Gas Lease Royalties Beginner's Guide to Mineral Owners. On that video. So the short answer is no. Okay. I guess the short answer is yes. There are lists of publicly traded companies that own leases, but I don't think it's specifically how you're expecting it, where you can see what leases they have. Usually it's more generic than that. You can see where they're operating, like where their wells are, and in their owner relations, like their public investor slides, for example, they might list out their properties that they have picked up leases in. They might have a map that shows where their lease acreage is, but I wouldn't necessarily say there's a list that shows all the leases that public companies are in. But in terms of knowing which companies are publicly traded that operate oil and gas wells, that is something that you can pretty easily get. I can think of a couple, but I kind of want to get my favorite listing and put that link in there. I'll get that link and I'll put that as a response. So that's what I would say here. Okay. With that, go back to here. It is now 1 o'clock, and we have, a very sufficient office hours because we checked all the boxes in terms of, my audio being funny and my camera not working right away, and then having a weird layout, so checked all those boxes. But yeah. Okay, I will see y'all next week, and same time, same place. Again, make sure to check us out on pecanestimate.com, pecantriog.com, and here on this channel. So I'll see y'all next week.